My name is Del Marting. I'm the chairman of the board of the directors, and I'd like to call this meeting to order right now. First, I'd like to introduce some of the guests we have and members of our team, beginning with our board of directors. I'll seated over there on the right. I'll just go down the list. If you guys want to wave your hand, that'd be great. Mr. Don Colvin, Corrado DeGasperis, Leo Drozdoff, Bill Nance, Steve Pay, Kristen Slanina, and Robert Spence. So we welcome them all, and I'd like to say to them, thank you very much for your great work this year and over the past several months, and for your attendance here today. And I also would like to acknowledge some other special guests we have with us this morning. First and foremost is James Robertson from Donald Carano, who's our oversight inspector of the election. Jeff Michael from Assure CPA, our accounting firm. Both are in attendance here with us today. Also from the company, I wanted to introduce Judd Merrill, our Chief Financial Officer, Matt Bieberly, Chief Accounting Officer, and Zach Spence, who is our Treasurer and Corporate Secretary. One of the great things about having these AGM meetings is a chance for us as the management and the directors, and the chance for you as our shareholders to kind of interact and intermingle. And following the completion of this specific AGM, there will be two other presentations we'll deliver. Corrado will lead on the discussion of corporate strategy and also talk about 2026 critical objectives, including the sale of our mining assets, advancement and monetization of our Silver Springs land, power, and water portfolio, and also an overview, important topic for all of us, Comstock metals. We'll have a question and answer period following Corrado's presentation, and please hold your questions till he's finished with that. I wanted to also welcome and acknowledge some other long-term great friends of Comstock who are with us here today. If you ladies and gentlemen would like to stand up or wave, that'd be great. Tom Prutzman, Pete Heitzman, and Bruce McGuy, all three long-term Comstock investors and local investors. So their support in the community has been outstanding, been with us a long time, and it's a shareholder group we probably appreciate the most, so thank you all. Additionally, we have two folks, Mary Beth West and Dan Shore, with us today, who are co-investors both in Comstock itself and in SSOF, which we'll talk about later on this morning. So Dan and Mary Beth, thank you again. So again, welcome to the meeting. We'd like to have a fair, informative, and constructive meeting, and very much appreciate your cooperation in observing certain rules that will provide fair opportunity, equal opportunity for everybody to ask questions and to get the most out of our presentation. So in line with that, if you have questions during the business of this AGM, the first part of our meeting, please address them to me, the chair, and when I recognize you, you'll be able to ask the question. If you wish to ask a question, put your hand up, please. Wait to be recognized. And when recognized, state your name and the fact that you are a shareholder. If you're acting as a proxy, please so state, name the shareholder you are representing. That would be great, and we'll try to get to as many questions as we can. Please don't interrupt others when they're speaking. Try to be as brief as possible with your questions and comments. And please confine, if you would please, the question to one subject at a time in order to allow others to address the team here. As a courtesy to other shareholders, matters of individual concern, not relating specifically to this meeting or the business of the company, please defer those to the end of the presentation, and if you'd like, talk specifically with an officer or director as appropriate. Questions will be limited to 3 minutes per person. And just a final note, use of cameras, recording equipment, communication devices, or any other type of equipment is prohibited by the bylaws of our company. Wanted to introduce now Zach Spence, and he'll give you the secretary's reports. Please go ahead, Zach.
Thank you, Dell. The Board of Directors fixed March 31st, 2026 as the record date for determining the shareholders of record entitled to notice of and to vote at this meeting. Shareholders of record at the close of business on March 31st, 2026 were provided with notice of the meeting and may vote either in person or by duly authorized proxies. James Robertson has been appointed to act as the Inspector of Election, and he has taken his oath as the Inspector of Election. Based on the information from our transfer agent, EQ Equinity, Broadridge Financial Solutions, and the bylaws of the company, a quorum is present, and this meeting has been duly called for business. Upon entering the meeting, each of you should have registered at the registration desk. If anyone has not registered, you should please do so. In addition, each of you should have received an agenda. On the right side of the agenda are the rules of conduct for the annual meeting. In fairness to all shareholders and in order to permit an orderly meeting, we ask that participants abide by these rules. There will be time for questions immediately following management's presentation. Thank you. Dell?
Thanks, Zach. That's great. So let's get into the agenda. There are 4 matters of business on the agenda for today's meeting. And shareholders of record and their duly appointed proxies are entitled to vote on these 4 matters. If you previously returned your proxy and do not wish to change your vote, you don't need to do anything further. If you've already completed but not returned your proxy, you should do so at the time the ballots are being collected, which will be right after this. If you have not voted by proxy or you wish to change your proxy vote, please raise your hand now and we'll bring you a new ballot, and these ballots will be collected after the resolutions have been presented and discussed. So if anybody needs a ballot, I guess there are 3 or 4 here. So Zach, can we, I guess Julie and Alexia, we do that? Yeah. Is that everybody? You're good to go? Okay. As I mentioned, these ballots will be collected after the resolutions have been presented and discussed. First matter open to the voting: to elect nominees to serve as directors on the board of directors of the company. This term will expire 2027 annual meeting. Following individuals have been nominated for election as directors of the board: Comstock: Donald Colvin, Corrado DeGasperis, Leo Drozdoff, Walter Marting, myself, Bill Nance, Steve Pay, Kristen Slanina, and Robert Spence. Do I have a motion to open the vote on the election of directors?
I make a motion to open the vote, Dale.
Do I have a second? The Board of Directors recommends that the shareholders vote for each of these nominees. Thank you. Second matter on the agenda is a proposal to ratify the appointment of Assure CPA as the company's independent registered public accounting firm for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2026. Do I have a motion to open the vote to ratify the appointment of Assure CPA LLC?
Okay, I move that motion.
A second for that motion? Board of Directors recommends that the shareholders vote for this proposal. Third matter on the agenda is the proposal to approve non-binding advisory resolution relating to the compensation of the named executive officers. Do I have a motion to open the vote on this non-binding advisory resolution?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
I have a second.
Second.
Again, the directors recommend that the shareholders vote for this proposal. Thank you. The fourth matter on the agenda is the Comstock 2026 Equity Incentive Plan. I have a motion to approve this incentive plan.
I motion to approve.
Second for this?
Second.
Again, the Board of Directors recommends that the shareholders vote for this proposal. Thank you. Okay, so these matters now are before us, and we are ready to vote. It's now 9:12 a.m., and the polls are open. Any person holding proxies to vote at this meeting who has not already turned them in to the inspector of election or holding a completed ballot should turn them in now to the inspector of election or one of his assistants from Comstock. If you'd please do that, that would be great. And meantime, James, Zach, Darcy, and the team will be collecting the ballots, and we'll wait for the final tabulation. So if you want to get a cup of coffee or something, there'll be a brief pause here while we collect and tabulate these votes. Okay? All right, thank you very much. We're going to now have the report of the inspector of the election. Mr. Inspector, I declare the polls are now closed. Can you please make your report on this at this time?
As Inspector of Elections, I have reviewed the report of Broadridge and a tally of votes submitted at the meeting. Based on preliminary reports of the voting to be certified by me, I wish to announce that the individuals nominated to serve as directors of the corporation have been elected by the affirmative vote of a plurality of the corporation's shareholders. The appointment of Assure CPA LLC as the company's independent registered public accounting firm for the year ended December 31st, 2026 has been ratified by a majority of the actual votes cast at this meeting. The non-binding resolution relating to the compensation of named executive officers has been approved by a majority of the votes cast. And finally, the Comstock Inc. 2026 Equity Incentive Plan has been approved by a majority of the votes cast at this meeting.
Thank you, James. I'll now entertain a motion to adjourn the formal meeting.
I motion to adjourn the meeting.
Have a second? Second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries unanimously. This concludes our meeting. Thank you again very much for your interest in Comstock, and now I'll turn the floor over to Corrado, and it's all yours.
Thanks, Dal. Thank you, thank you. Can everyone hear me okay? Sounds like a yes. So I think we buffered the schedule quite a bit, which is good because that'll allow us to go through this presentation and go through Q&A. I do want to make sure when we get to the Q&A that everybody does have the chance to ask questions. So we'd like to try to limit people to one question per, and if we have time, we can take some more questions at the back end, but sometimes people get a little over passionate and, ask a gazillion questions, so let's try not to do that. But I think that once we're done with the overview, we'll go through the Q&A period. And then we'll segue into lunch. I'm not sure if it's practical, but it seems likely that we'll be very comfortably on or ahead of schedule for that. I think everybody knows where we are since you're all here, and people who are not here, I'm sorry. We're going to do a tour of what we call the Comstock Loop after the lunch. And it's pretty remarkable what's happening here in northern Nevada. And for those of you who aren't familiar, we pronounce it Nevada, not Nevada. Nevada. What's happening in the northern quadrant, just within this blue lines that you see behind me, is extraordinary, almost unbelievable until you see it. And so we're going to leave Reno. We're going to head due east and enter the Tahoe Reno Industrial Center. The Tahoe Reno Industrial Center was known to us locally for many years until 2014 when Elon Musk chose Tesla's first gigafactory location here. And most of us locally refer to it as the Tesla effect because it seemed after that, every relocating company took a look at northern Nevada, and it felt for a long time that we were always in the top three, be it Nevada, Texas, or one other state. And I think everyone knows Musk ultimately chose Nevada and Texas for his gigafactories. But then something extraordinary happened. Switch showed up and started building hyperscale data centers, and it was an obscurity to most people. It'd be hard-pressed to name a data center that isn't located here. There are a few, and they're trying to get in. So we're going to drive through the Tahoe Reno Industrial Center, and you'll see that. Last I understood, there was somewhere between 8 and 10 million square feet under construction, and that probably didn't include tract, which right now has about 2,500 acres under development. It's just extraordinary. What happened though is Elon Musk demanded, I guess, that the governor build a connecting highway from I-80 right into Silver Springs. So we're going to take that connecting highway all the way through, 4-lane superhighway, right into Silver Springs. And the Comstock Metals team is ready, willing, and excited to host us all and tour the facilities and talk to the team directly. We had a local open house a ways back, and we were overwhelmed with the amount of people. Pete, you were there. There was a lot of folks that came out and really enjoyed, but there was nothing really built then. So now you're going to see it all. I'm going to share a few pictures with you just to give you a glimpse. I know some of you can't do the tour, so we'll give you just a little bit of visual of what you might miss. What's happening, Nevada's always thought of as, Vegas, right? It was gaming that drove the state and mining to the north. Gaming is still there. Mining is booming, as you can see with the gold and silver prices. But this industrial loop is what's exploding. It's exploding in a way that would probably be difficult to exaggerate. So the metals team, I'm going to just show you a quick picture of the metals team. I think most of you know Judd and I. If you've had the benefit of meeting Fortunato, you know that he's a cornerstone of the chemistry, of the metallurgy, of the engineering, and of the entire supply chain that's being built for Comstock Metals. And Isaac Nicholson, who's in the room, we've contracted with Isaac. We'd like him to join us full time, but he's helping us dramatically with the marketing and expansion of the marketing, now that the platform is being established. And then we have just an incredible, competent team from HS&EP to operations to logistics, to production. And so if you get a chance to meet Isaac, meet Kayla, meet Paul, meet Fortunato, when you're actually out there this afternoon, please do. Say hello, ask them questions directly. Dell's already introduced the whole board. I don't need to reintroduce the board. But I would like to say that, with with the advancements that we've made in the technology, with the expansions that have started to occur, we did need to first and foremost, clean up our balance sheet and recapitalize the company. If you guys recall the shareholder letter from January, not of 2026, 2025, it was a tough letter. We had to do a reverse split. We had to recapitalize. We had to position the company because all of a sudden we had two technologies, one in particular getting to the finish line of the development and starting to incur revenue. So in that same context, we've expanded the board. We've expanded the representations across financial, legal, capital markets, good governance, good experienced governments, coming from recycling industries with Bob Spence, coming from solar with Don Colvin, coming from capital markets with Steve Pei. Please take the time to say hello. But it's already been extraordinary. We've been able, as you can see on this slide, we've been able to better allocate the committee work. We've been better allocate the workload so that the company and management is dedicating its capacity significantly, dramatically, fully, to the operation of the business with good governance, with good oversight, and quite frankly, with very valuable input for us. That balance sheet in August of last year, or July in last year, was certainly challenged, from a liquidity perspective. We had very little cash, and it was challenged from a complexity perspective. We raised capital with various instruments that would certainly not have been our preference. Adam Sands, who's here with Titan Partners, I think we met 3 years ago, and Adam's like, well, we like the technology. We think we like you, but you're not ready. You just get a demo up and running. We don't even know if it works. A year later, it was like 2 years ago. It was like great progress, amazing potential, still not ready. And it's disappointing, right? Because we're driving the business. Well, last year, hey, we think you guys are ready. And that was incredibly rewarding internally, to say, like, we need to professionalize not just the banking partners, but we need to professionalize the capital structure, the capital base. And sometimes there's scuttlebutt about, institutional versus retail. We don't feel that at all. We've never used the word change the capital base. We've always used the word grow, increase, establish, And so if you looked at our top 50 holders in May of 2025, you might recognize, you probably wouldn't, you might recognize 4 institutions. So after January, if you look at our top 40, we've got 34 that have filed 13Fs. 34. So I was only comfortable putting the logos on this page that filed. There's a heck of a lot more. And if you look at the top 50, yep, you'll see Pete, you'll see Dan, right? You'll see 3 or 4 retail investors. But guess what? The rest of you are still there. So we built the base stronger, more robust. And we do anticipate, Adam's team will be very interested to now start picking up coverage for the company. Next step, professionalize the coverage. Get research reports out there. And, Adam may or may not like this, but we got some other banks saying, hey, we want to pick up some coverage on you too, right? It's all part of the evolution. But one of the things, I can't delete this slide, right? It's old news now, and I apologize, right? But we eliminated substantially all of these obligations. And George Malis, where's George? George Malis, who has been a shareholder for a decade. We would consider George institutional, but, before the capital raises of the last two, he was in the top 3 shareholders. There might have been a few instances where he was number 1, but he also had loaned us $9 million, in promissory notes. But part of the agreement to raise his capital was to eliminate all that debt. And George was willing to accept stock to eliminate the debt, and he did that. Well, I'm happy to report today that all of that is extinguished, all of that is completed, and in fact, George paid us back $1,750,000 in excess value because of the stock's appreciation. So we paid off all the debt, and we got $1,750,000 back, $1,250,000 in January, $508,000 yesterday. So thank you. It's very good for our liquidity and our financial position. It's extraordinary when you work in a win-win environment and you can actually collaborate and have a shareholder base that, when you hit a bump, when you have an issue, they step up and say, how can we help you? Versus, the alternative. So look, what are we going to do this year from a corporate? I know everybody wants to talk about metals. I'm almost there. Want to talk about Sierra Springs? I'm almost there. But from a corporate perspective, we still have a little bit more wood to chop. Sometimes it's disappointing for folks when we say we're going to monetize. I use the word monetize when I'm not exactly sure how the transaction's going to look. So monetize to you should mean we do something that we get money for. But I can say much more robustly now, we're selling the mining assets. And I said it on the last call that we expect to close that deal in the third quarter. It is on track. We feel very, very good about it. All right, why do we feel good about it? Because every dollar that comes out of a non-productive asset that goes into a productive asset is exponentially better in value creation for our shareholders. And it is extraordinary, the speed, the magnitude, and the sustainability of producing metals from urban sources. You probably have heard the term, right? Urban mining. That's what we're doing. To extract metals from waste, to extract metal from urban sources, we believe we could produce a lot more silver a lot faster than any of our mines ever could. So we would rather take that capital and produce silver, aluminum, copper, and these other metals and materials faster, more profitably, not more environmentally friendly, ridiculously more environmentally friendly. We're literally keeping toxic, hazardous waste materials out of landfills, out of ecosystems, out of your food and out of your water supply, and reusing all those metals. And where are we reusing them? In the United States. So that's our claim to fame. So we're going to monetize, we're going to sell these mining assets. We're also looking for, and Mary Beth is here, Dan's here, they can tell you, we want to monetize the assets in Silver Springs, okay? We're excited about monetizing the assets in Silver Springs. And I know that was a little ambiguous before because we weren't sure how we were going to do it. We had this big obligation hanging over our head, and Comstock stepped up and said, we are going to resolve that obligation. By doing that, we went from 17% ownership to over 50% ownership. Good for everybody, because now the obligation is free and we have an exciting asset that a lot of people want. To do that, we had to ensure that there's power that goes to the site. So our corporate objectives: sell the mining assets, position Sierra Springs to be monetized. To do that, we must bring power to it. So we've realigned, we've powered, and expanded our ownership, right, to do what? To monetize. I'm still using the word monetize because I don't know exactly how we're going to do it, but man, it is looking very good. And then lastly, and I know some people are anxious to hear more about it, but we needed to integrate, we needed to realign, we need to professionalize, a Bioleum to be able to advance this integrated farm-to-fuel solution with strong leadership. Okay, so all that is on tap for 2026. We feel great about it. When these things are done from the corporation's perspective, what have we achieved? Well, non-dilutive cash in the treasury and the total support of the growth of Comstock Metals. That's why we're taking a bus tour out there, because we want you to see the foundation, the platform of what we're about to expand. Many of you know that Comstock Metals was the first, I believe still the only operating solar recycling company in North America that's R2 V3 certified, which means for us that we have a zero landfill solution. It's still hard for people to believe that every ton of material that comes into the plant gets reprocessed, contaminants are cleanly eliminated, and we reuse and resell all the material, meaning we've never sent an ounce to a landfill. And there's no ounce of waste sitting around anywhere. You'll see it today. And to do that, we got first of a kind permit in Nevada. The regulators were stringent with us, so stringent. In fact, it was challenging because they literally didn't want us to generate any hazardous waste. If you generate any hazardous waste, 5%, 6%, 2%, we don't believe you'll meet the threshold as a recycler. We're a zero landfill solution. We meet the threshold. It'd be very difficult for someone else to get those permits here in Nevada. It's not impossible for sure, but it would probably take at least 2 years if they showed up tomorrow. Why is Nevada important? Because California, Arizona, and Nevada make up 50+% of the end-of-life market. We've secured master service agreements. Fortunato's not here this morning because he had a major customer visiting the site this morning. I said, make sure that customer gets the heck out of there before we show up at 1:30 with the bus. Complete site selection for 2 additional. We've selected the site for Vegas. We've selected the site for Ohio. We have a permit and a site in California, which is just a transfer station, but it's critical because most of our customers are in California. And we're advancing the R&D for metal recovery. Okay, we've in 2025, we've proven, we've engineered the solution that we are now working to prove this year to recover metals from the tailings. And we increased our revenue during the year. We've started to do some real marketing analysis against our competitors. So far, we don't see much. Okay, we don't see much. There's quite a few folks out there. But we still see a lot of people saying that they're recyclers when they're in fact an important or meaningful part of the recycling supply chain, but they're not really recycling. And others are doing bad things. They're scrapping material and sending it overseas. Material still going into landfills. But we really feel like we've positioned ourselves to take something as of today that's very, very differentiated to scale, and scale is everything. So we've done the competitive analysis, we've done the comparisons, and now we're looking forward to this year. What are we going to do this year? We're going to deploy, assemble, commission, and showcase this operating system. Now, it's not operating today, but you're going to see the assembly is near complete. You're going to see the scale of it. You're going to see the magnitude of it. You're going to see what has all been pulled together. But our goal is to get that thing up and running, and get it up and running very, very soon, and get it up and running so that it's profitable. It doesn't take a lot to get it to be profitable. 20-25% utilization makes that machine profitable. 40 to 45% utilization makes the corporation profitable, right? All that has to be proven still. All people want to see the revenue. They want to see the costs. Yes, we've run a demo facility for 2.5 years. It's not the same thing. Now we're going to run the big machine. Third quarter, fourth quarter, people will start to see those operations and those unit metrics. I think you're going to see a strong interest in our company when that thing's up and running. There's a lot of show me the money people out there, and we're fixing to do just that. We continue to add customers through master service agreements. I said on the last call, this is the area that we have the least precision, the least certainty. So I want to be clear. We're adding customers continuously. The customers are mostly names you would recognize. These customers are getting their responsibilities together, their resources together. This notion that this much end-of-life panel waste is coming offline is still nascent, even to the industry. I've said before, in 2024, they were asking us, how do you think we should replace these things? What rate should we be replacing them? 2025, they got their arms around the potential magnitude of the problem, and they were choking on it because it's a lot of money. 2026, we're starting to see these companies put resources together, these companies certify and vet the supply chain, making decisions and putting budgets together. But the message that I'm giving to you here is that it's been slow. It's been slow for them to accept reality, maybe is the right way to say it. Yes, it is a meaningful cost. These are hazardous materials. They must be disposed of responsibly. But we feel from a foundational perspective, it's going the way that it needs to go. We're also submitting permits for our second site. We're not going to order the equipment for the second site until the first site's operating, and quite frankly, until the first site's operating, and we're seeing a nice trend up. So we've got Northern Nevada, Southern Nevada. Half the market can be covered from those two locations alone. And Ohio and Texas are on our radar screen. Ohio obviously is on more than our radar screen. Texas is, you're going to see a map here in just a minute. You guys have been familiar with some of our maps showing the demographics of where all the solar panels have been deployed, the old ones. Well, a lot of new ones are being deployed as well. One of the things happening in Texas is they're breaking a lot of panels. I don't know why. Like usually you're supposed to have about a 0.5% breakage rate when you're installing panels. We're seeing breakage rates of 2%, 3%, sometimes 4%. Well, how are you seeing that? Well, we're getting trucks of broken panels. That's what's happening. So quickly, most of you have seen this. I just want to highlight this. Our core technology, our plants look simple. They maybe don't look that impressive to some people. But our core technology is our know-how on eliminating the contaminants in the oven cleanly. That means we don't carbonize the material, we don't hurt the metals, we eliminate the laminates, the plastics, and the glues so that you can get clean glass, so you can get clean aluminum. And these tailings are available to be easily refined by others. That's what we do today. We spent 2.5 years proving it. We've proven that. We've also proven how much it costs to build this thing. $11 million is what we spent for facility 1. We spent another $1 million upgrading the power infrastructure for it. We spent another $1 million for the storage alongside of it. Some of you are familiar with that $13 million number. And then there were $2 million of leasehold improvements that needed to be made to the buildings and the location. What we're also doing now is investing in some upgrade equipment because glass has all of a sudden become a very strong demanding market. Some of you have seen some of the investments like that NVIDIA made in Corning. Okay, there's an explosive amount of demand and demand for glass because of what's happening with our infrastructures. And so we're dealing with some of the biggest glass companies in the country, and we're meeting their specifications. To meet those specifications, we had to upgrade some of the equipment. You're going to see that in the plant today. So we don't just get paid to take this waste, we also get paid to resell it all. And most of you are familiar of our prediction of about $250 a ton to recover these metals, but that was based on a $35 silver price. And most of you heard me say that number is closer to $500 a ton with a $60 plus silver price. So we're liking the way this whole thing has come together. That is the machine that we've already deployed to clean these glass pearls and make them of the quality and of the specification for the largest glass companies in the country to remanufacture and reuse these glass for high quality applications. The building finally got cleaned out. Thank God this is not what you're going to see when you get there today because it's now being assembled. But we had to put an epoxy layer on the floor because cleanliness is absolutely critical to us, and ease of cleanliness is absolutely critical to us. So not only do we have an epoxy floor, we have a Zamboni, right? Because we keep the floor clean all the time. Scrubbers, generators, thermal oxidizers, robotic arms, platform for production, assembly for production, crushing, and storage alongside. So in Nevada, you cannot store waste materials at the destination for processing site. You cannot do it. You cannot put them in the same location. To put it in the same location, you would need a federal permit. To get a federal permit, you need at least half a decade. So no one's doing RCRA permits for these kind of purposes. Nevada says, we'll give you a RCRA permit, a RCRA light permit. We'll give you a written determination to allow you to process these materials as long as you don't store them on site. Well, what does that mean? Well, if a truck delivers materials on Tuesday, Corrado, and we come out on Wednesday and those materials are sitting there, you violate your permit. Okay, that seems silly. What if we put them right next door? Well, we'd like at least one layer, like, so here's 600 Lake. What if we put it at 700 Lake? Well, that feels a little too close for comfort. How about 800 Lake? That works. What if we squeeze 700 Lake to be small? That works too. All right. So you see this little green space here? That's now 700 Lake. But it's all coming online. The road's being repaved. Everything's coming together. It's all within the budgets that I just showed you. It's extraordinary. So in a way, it's now an advantage because anybody else that comes in, I mean, and this is where Sierra Springs benefits Comstock, okay? Sierra Springs Opportunity Fund owns 600 Lake Avenue. It owns 700 Lake Avenue. It owns 800 Lake Avenue. And Comstock Metals leases from that company together, working very well for our meeting each other's needs. Now, this is the map that everyone saw, and I just want to repeat something. We believe there's 1.3 to 1.4 billion, with a B, solar panels deployed in the United States today. Supposed to last 25 plus years. On average, our statistics tell us they're lasting at about 10 years less than that. 14, 15, 16, 17 years, very common. That was the surprise to the industry. That was what Fortunato recognized 4 years ago before it actually hit, and that no one was attending to it. He recognized it because he was in the recycling industry. He was paying attention to some of these supply chains, and he didn't see one. The bigger the circle, the older the panels. Oops, sorry. So you can see between Arizona, Nevada, and of course, California, you have almost 60%. It's like 55+% of the end-of-life target market is in the southwest region of the United States. But I came to learn that this is an old map. It's like 3 years old. So we started updating it. Here's some of the expanded deployments that are occurring right now in the United States. And here's the ones that are under development. So Texas should grab your eye. Yes, it's true, California has the massive amount of old ones. That's our market today. But they're still deploying. They're still deploying. And look at Texas. So anyone who has the perception that does solar have headwinds? I guess it has headwinds. Are they still deploying like there's no tomorrow? It certainly seems that way from the data. So for us, to be able to bring in a tipping fee, to be able to then resell all of those materials, and to do it in a very fast, very efficient, critically very effective method. If the aluminum has plastics glues, then it's going to get then there's going to be lead stuck to it. Then there's going to be, in some cases, depending on the panel, cadmium stuck to it. Now you don't have sellable product. You have a hazardous waste that has to be paid for to dispose. Some people said to me earlier, we didn't even realize the glass issue. We didn't realize that that you might have been worried about selling all the glass. Well, we weren't really worried about selling all the glass. We just knew that if 15% of the mass balance is aluminum and 15 to 20% of the mass balance is these tailings that are rich in silver and other metals, then 70% is glass. So we need to make sure that we have good offtakes for this glass. What you're going to hear Fortunato tell you is that the people who are qualifying us want all the glass we can give them. So now we have a real business opportunity, but we have a real business challenge. Like, we need to be a reliable supplier of clean glass to these big companies. We're very excited about it because it's all falling into place. And lastly, we're not satisfied with selling industrial tailings to other refiners. So this is my cartoon of Fortunato's engineered design, of which now working with 4 different partners. We are bench testing, we are piloting, and we are working very, very hard this year to be able to get a pilot up and running to extract first silver, then silica and silicon, and then ultimately the rest of the metals. If we do that, this already differentiated system will be remarkably differentiated. It will change our strategic position in the market, and of course it will change our economics. If we want to be disciplined, we could say to you that when you are integrating a system and operating it at a pilot level, that's called TRL 6, Technology Readiness Level 6. Okay, when you scale it up to a bigger operation and demonstration scale where a whole supply chain is working, that's TRL 7. And that's what we did at 600 Lake in the smaller facility for over 2.5 years. TRL 8 is industry scale. You were able to scale it up 20x from doing 5,000 tons a year to 100,000 tons a year. To scale it to that level, you need to process a panel every 7 seconds. Even as our strongest, most healthy men and women can't do that. So we have to automate it. It has to be robotic. You'll see the robotic systems when you tour the plant this afternoon. So having that ability, and then ultimately, so what we're saying is, if we could fully integrate a pilot, that would be TRL 6. What does that look like? 1 ton a day. 1 ton a day. We would then take it to demonstration scale TRL 7. What does that look like? 20, 25 tons a day. Then what does industry scale look like? Well, we would like it to be somewhere between 50 to 100,000 tons a year. That's 250 tons a day. So you go from a ton a day to 25 tons a day to 250 tons a day. On the TRL scaling, legacy for heavy industrial materials, going up 10x is very common. Going up 20x is very common. 100x, we don't know. So anyway, why are we doing all this? We want to keep these industrial metals home. Comstock is famous for silver mining, silver kings, the Comstock lode. The demand for silver is going up dramatically because of electrification. It's happening everywhere. More advanced batteries, more advanced photovoltaics, robotics, GPUs. Anything that's electronic is using these conductive minerals, and the demand is going up. But it's gone up to a point where there's a deficit. For the last 4 years, for the first time that I could remember, certainly for the first time that I've been in the industry, the use of silver well exceeds the production. 4 years in a row, in the tens to hundreds of millions of ounces. In March, China's imports of silver went through the roof. This is what's happening in the world. We're short silver is the answer. So now, let me switch over to Sierra Springs, because this is what we've spoken the least about. Why have we spoken the least about it? Because Comstock Seed invested this in 2019 because we had a couple of properties in Silver Springs. We didn't know what to do with them. We didn't know how to do with them. We just thought we had some really good properties and some really good water rights. In 2017, the first Trump administration passed the Opportunity Zone legislation. In 2018, Comstock seeded a company, and we formed Sierra Springs Opportunity Fund, Inc. Story County, Nevada in its entirety, and Silver Springs, Nevada, adjacent, formed one of the largest opportunity zones in the country. As the crow flies 10 miles from the California border, people say, well, how does Story County qualify for the Opportunity Zone? Isn't it supposed to be a lower income district? Well, Story County was a lower income district in two census ago, and Lyon County is a lower income district, and there was kind of a clause that said, if you're adjacent to an existing one and you were a previous one, you qualify. Story County probably has very good lobbyists. They convinced it was Steve Mnuchin at the time, the Treasury Secretary, that they qualified, and this Opportunity Zone was born. We said, this is an opportunity. Let's create a company to take advantage of this. Let's see if we get some really good investors. Dan Shore was a founding investor. Mary Beth was one of the first investors. And we started consolidating a lot more land. We like the area because Nevada, and especially this northern part of Nevada, is one of the safest areas in the U.S. disaster zone map. So when it comes to hurricanes and floods and earthquakes, now we're very stable in that context. So we ended up putting together 2,500 acres of land. Over 1,000 of it is almost ideally suited for these light industrial expansions for sure, and data centers. There's also commercial real estate. There's also residential real estate. There's a housing crisis in northern Nevada. If you're wondering, how does this all come together? Well, here's the old and original Comstock load. That teal section there, that was the origination of our company. I don't want to be coy about this, right? We are selling the mineral district. We're taking that capital and we're redeploying it into metals. Right down the street, Highway 50, which used to be a lonely two-lane road, we've consolidated thousands of acres of land. And Switch, and Tesla, and Google, and Microsoft, and Tract, and Redwood, and all these companies. Most people that don't live here are shocked when they see it. And the lands surround the regional airport, which Sierra Springs also owns and operates. And we've identified a block of that land that is just ideally suited for this kind of data center advantage. And it is advantage not because it's so well located. It is. It's not advantage because it's so flat. It is. It's not advantage because we have water rights. We do. But what most people don't realize is the fiber network in this area is exceptional. The fiber network is exceptional. It's 2 milliseconds to Reno. It's like 8 milliseconds to Los Angeles. The fiber network here is powerful. Well, okay, that's why Microsoft's here. That's why Google's here. That's why Switch is here. Power is the last variable. And as all these folks were expanding like there was no tomorrow, they sucked up the grid, just like they did everywhere else in the country. And we stepped in and we committed to natural gas that would allow initially up to 300 megawatts of power and eventually over 1.2 gigawatts. Now people are getting excited. But we had to create that opportunity. We had to deploy the capital to own the properties free and clear. We did that. We're finishing that. But then we had to commit the capital to get the power. In the grand scheme of things, it's not a lot of capital. To us, it is. Hence some of the hesitation, hence some of the concern. We share it with you. The board shares it with you. We talk about it a lot, okay? But we've got it. We've got the power edge, okay? And we've got the fiber. And you're going to see it yourself. And what's the proof? Microsoft's right across the street, 180 acres. You're going to see the Vantage data center. I mean, they're building these things on the top of mountains now. They're paying more to move earth. You're going to see it now than we would sell our land for, probably, because our land's flat as a board. Don't need to move any earth. And we've got the acreage for hyperscale. So we're excited. The opportunity is being defined. We've had third parties come in and assess it. And so far they're saying this and this. Okay? So we're feeling good about this investment, and we're feeling good about monetizing it. Do we know how we're going to monetize it? Not exactly. Do we have notions? Yes, we do. Okay, so we will work through this as a diligent board, as a diligent management team. Sarah Springs and Comstock are now glued at the hip. I've always felt that way, but now it's fortified, and great things will happen. I've had many of you say to me, my God, if that's true, the value of that is worth more than the whole company. Unfortunately, that's true in a couple of instances. And that is where we haven't done a good job. And that is where we have to do a better job. So I appreciate this board. I appreciate the independence of the board. I'm the only executive director. Everyone else is an independent director. They bring competency from real estate, from capital markets, from clean energy, from recycling, etc. So together, I'm sure we could figure out the right answer, and then it's about execution. And that's the thing I want to leave you with before we go to Q&A. Just one thing. It's all about execution. It's on me and our teams to execute. Anything else that we say is just that. It's just conversation. The only thing that matters is we sell those assets, we monetize this portfolio, we process panels and sell metals. That's it. If we do that, all the other nuances in the world will take care of themselves. And last point on that. The Compensation Committee, and I'd like to thank you for approving overwhelmingly some shares to compensate management. The Comp Committee has worked its butt off for the last 2 months. And there's 3 things I can tell you. Our stock-based compensation is performance-based. What performance? The exact objectives that we disclosed and I reviewed with you. If we don't achieve those objectives, we're not getting compensation. If we achieve those objectives, we're getting the compensation, okay? And it's tied to appreciation in the share price. If we grow the value of this company by hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions, said it 3 times, then we will vest some of that compensation. And if we don't, we won't. So it's performance-based, but it's stock-based, so that we're aligned with the shareholders. We only make money if we're making the shareholders money first. And we have a 3-year plan. So if we're not around at the end of that 3rd year, we're not getting anything either. There's no mini league vesting here. You got to get to the finish line to achieve it. And we heard that from you. We heard that from many shareholders, especially some of our new shareholders. Why doesn't management have more stock? Why isn't your compensation more aligned with the performance of the stock? We addressed it head on. Okay. Bob Spence is the chairman of the Comp Committee, brand new. Kristen, Leo, Bill, 4 people on the committee, worked very hard over the last 2 months to get it done by today. Now, if you guys didn't approve it, we would have been shit out of luck. We would have been out of luck. But you did, thank you. Now we can move forward with it. Okay. Questions. If I could just repeat, try to hold it to one, and then we'll let everybody else get a chance. Probably someone else will ask that second or third question you were thinking about, and if not, then we can circle back if there's unanswered. Yes?
Is this microphone on? Yes, it is. All right, everyone, I will hold the microphone for you. You do not need to grab the microphone. This is just like a professional television interview. Please raise your hand, and I will work my way across the room. And please state your name at the beginning. Thank you. This gentleman right here. I'll hold the microphone for you. I am professionally trained in this. Okay. And ask your question to Mr. DeGasperis, please. Thank you. State your name.
My name is Rick Sovell, and I noticed that around the Silver Spring area, the housing is pretty sparse. Is that included with the situation with the employment of the corporations that we're going to be building in the area?
Yeah, so couple of things there. I would argue that Reno has really become unaffordable for anybody working in the industrial park. It's pretty. I almost can't afford to live in Reno. I was like, I don't live in Reno, by the way. Tahoe Reno Industrial Center allows for no residential housing. Northern Nevada Industrial Center allows for no residential housing. So the next location is Silver Springs. And Silver Springs has a tremendous amount of residential housing capacity. Okay, so I think it's natural. Silver Springs also needs some commercial development. It needs a downtown. It needs a grocery store. You know, you have to drive 25 minutes to go grocery shopping one way. So I think, and then everyone is converging on Silver Springs. I think everyone knows that Microsoft just broke ground. I think you probably don't know that the first truck stop in 7-Eleven has now showed up at the intersection, and Tract, which you're going to see today what they're building, their third site is in Silver Springs. So, but there is more capacity beyond just light industrial. Now, Silver Springs is light industrial. You're not going to see a gigafactory in Silver Springs. You're not going to see a medical waste incinerator in Silver Springs. You'll see those in the Tahoe Reno Industrial Center. But you will see light industrial, which you know, Class A office space, light manufacturing like solar recycling, also data centers.
I'll hold the microphone for you.
Hi. Bob,
Hi, Bob.
we may have to change our name to Comstock Metals. Anyway, I like to do back of the napkin calculations. And I use 37 panels per ton. And between now and 2030, we're talking 1 million tons, right?
Yep.
Now, 1 million tons times
2030.
37 is 37 million panels.
Yeah.
Without going into it, that's over 4 years of work if we just get 25% of the market, assuming competition.
Yeah.
And there's one extra question in here. How does the EPA feel about us compared to the competition on the way we destroy panels? Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Okay, I'm going to do it in backwards order. So the EPA, for this discussion purpose, is the Nevada Division of Environmental Protection, which Leo Drozdoff, one of our independent directors, used to run. It used to be part of his job responsibility. They are sophisticated, especially when it comes to the mining industry. So Nevada has a robust regulatory infrastructure from an EPA environmental protection perspective. They got overwhelmed with all these battery recyclers, you know, Redwood and American Battery and all these, you know, Aquametal, all these like battery people somehow landed in Nevada, okay? Tesla had something to do with that. It's a new thing for them. It's a very hazardous notion to recycle batteries. We dipped our toe in it. Water was cold. We ran the other way. Okay? Generally speaking, there is an incredibly positive recognition of our approach to recycling these panels. And I don't think it's out of school to say, you know, we from our mining legacy have the highest regard for environmental stewardship. We were recognized by 5 regulators in the state twice in a row for getting reclamation excellence. So the Division of Environmental Protection, the Division of Minerals, they all hold us as a corporation in high regard, and they've started to make inquiries beyond even, hey, we like that you're a zero waste solar recycler. We like it. Could you reprocess other types of tailings and extract other metals as well? So we don't know yet. We'll see. But so we're getting good interface from the regulators. Now, from the federal perspective, and let's go into the competitive discussion, we would love nothing more than the EPA, the federal EPA, to designate solar panels as universal hazardous waste. California has done that. Nevada reciprocates with California, which means it's extremely expensive to put this in a landfill with that designation. But we see funny business happening, Bob. We see some people trying to hide waste panels in auto fluff and send it to a landfill, you know, for $100 a ton, mix it in construction waste and send it to a landfill, and that's not legal, okay? But it's happening. Or some of these folks that say they're recyclers just shredding the metal and sending it to Korea or China to be refined, dirty. Okay, that's bad. So our 25%, that's okay, good. I think our number's like 33, 34 million expected by 2030, so we're pretty close to what you're saying from a market assessment perspective. But we gotta educate, and that's why we got Isaac came on board. We've got to educate the market. You know, these are bad practices that are not only illegal or improper, they hurt people. They hurt people, right? It's putting this stuff back into the environment, which we can avoid. So yeah, we're with you 100%. Is the 3 or 4 million that went end of life last year to 33 or 34 million that's going to go by 2030? Is it going to be a nice, smooth, super predictable line? No. It's going to go boop, 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 because these guys are just getting their heads around it. They're just getting their heads around it. And now, as we engage the biggest guys, people who have 25 million panel arrays in one project, they start asking us, well, maybe we can co-locate. Maybe we can partner. There's a big problem. All this waste is coming out. And 35 million panels, Bob, it's the tip of a 1.3 billion panel iceberg. Quite 30 years, I get it, but it's coming. So I guess I would leave you with, there are competitors, there are competitive pressures, there are competitive, anti-competitive practices that we have to overcome to get more panels, okay? We feel good when it's us against some of the other recyclers. We feel like we have the best solution. We think when we can showcase what you're about to see operating, right, they're going to say, I don't know if they'll be wowed or not, but they're certainly going to say, the other guy doesn't have that yet. So we're in a good place to get business. We're a good place to get market share. It's certainly, I would be disappointed if we end up with 25%, but let's go for it, right? Next question.
All right, just a reminder, I will hold the microphone. I was a running quarterback in the triple option, wishbone offense, so I will not give up the ball or the microphone. Please state your name.
John Carey, shareholder. Corrado.
Hey, John, good to see you.
Good seeing you. Thanks for the presentation. In third quarter of 25, Bioleum was $1 billion valuation, and everybody was excited about it.
Yeah.
You know, and today you didn't even talk about it.
Yeah.
What's up?
Yeah, great. So I should have talked about it. I'm sorry that I didn't. I'm glad you asked the question. I guess I was pretty confident someone would ask the question. So In May of last year, we effectively separated the company. We didn't deconsolidate it for accounting lingos, but we separated it with standalone governance, standalone leadership, and we got some good capital to come in. I'd like to correct one thing, and maybe it's me correcting myself if I said something that was not as clear. That capital came in, first of all, Marathon invested and contributed a state-of-the-art biorefining facility in March of 25. Then another investor put in capital, $20 million, in May of 25. Neither one of them committed to a valuation. Marathon capped themselves at $700 million, and the other one allowed the Bioleum team to target a valuation. It was over $1 billion, okay? But both of them said, we don't want to set the valuation. Go out and finish the capital raise, and whatever the real rest of the market says, we'll go to. So I don't, it's not correct. And, you certainly didn't, we're consolidating, so we don't have an investment on the books. But the way that we restructured it, we have a $65 million preferred instrument that sits at the top of the capital stack and has liquidation preference over Marathon and everyone else. But we're so aligned with Marathon and Martis and the other investors on what the potential of this could be. But then the team went out with that financial wherewithal, and they acquired and integrated the RenFuel technology into the business. And RenFuel, for those of you that don't know, was a technology that can take lignin and esterify it into an oil. If you can esterify that into a stable oil, it can blend with other oils and create more available feedstock for the refining industry. That's what Marathon likes. Okay, Marathon uses like soybean oils and those kinds of oils for refining. If you could blend Bioleum oils with their solution, you double your feedstock, you lower your cost, you lower your carbon score. That was the idea. But then we had the opportunity, which was extraordinary, to acquire Hexas. And I see Pete Heitzman, for those of you who didn't notice, wearing a Hexas hat, a Hexas baseball cap. Hexas provides low carbon, low cost, high yielding woody biomass, but it provides it where you want it, right? You can literally grow from farm to fuel that solution. So there was time, I would say through January, of integrating those activities. And quite frankly, Hexas changed the game pretty dramatically for us. I mean, if you looked at the team, it was all about chasing waste wood all over the place. Oh, there's so much waste wood, let's go get it all, right? But now it changed the game so dramatically. Most people, it took some time to reintegrate it. So I think that they have an extraordinary solution. They are not TRL6. They are not TRL7. So you compare it to Comstock Metals, who ran a TRL7 facility for 2.5 years and now scaling up to industry scale. I think maybe they thought they were, okay? And that's disappointing. That's disappointing. They're not. They're not TRL6. TRL6, by super disciplined definition, means you have wood to fuel integrated in one solution. I don't care if it's a ton a day, just like we're going to do with our metal refining. But they don't have that yet. Now, what the Madison facility does is it gives them an opportunity to do that. State-of-the-art equipment, state-of-the-art facility. So they're going to go out, try to raise the rest of that money. The valuation will not be $1 billion. It will not be $700 million. It'll be lower. Hopefully in the hundreds of millions. Hopefully. Okay? And then we will have a path to TRL6 to TRL7. Hexas can be commercialized today. We are getting inquiries from around the world because it's high yielding, high carbon, low carbon score, high carbon content, low cost. So I think wherever the world ends, feedstock's the bottleneck, we have the solution. Solution is enough of the right type of feedstock and the technology to convert it into the fuel. So if that's disappointing, let's be frank, it's disappointing to me, right? But we don't wallow in our disappointment. We fix the problem. Team's been realigned, team's been reintegrated. The leaderships of that team coming from the Madison facility, coming from Hexas, coming from Oklahoma is good, my opinion. It's very good. Next question.
Tom Waddington, I'm a shareholder. Corrado, my question is about cash flow. I think I remember from your slide there that we have $41 million at the moment. I think you have a $2 million a month cash burn. How much money still needs to go into SSOF? What for and when? And also, how much money does Bioleum have at the moment? And how fast is it burning that money?
Yeah.
And if it doesn't raise a Series A, is there going to be any need for us to put money into that?
Yeah, great questions, all of them. The tough questions, cash flow. So, no, it's a very good question, right? And, you know, when we first talked to Titan, right, it was all about fully funding the ability to bring metals online and being funded sufficiently to turning profitable. Okay, so we're very focused on that platform. So that $40 million in cash, I expect will go up from the sale of the mining assets. We said Q3, we can't give any more color, you know, in terms of the deal, but we expect that number will go up. Okay, that's very, very important. To answer your question, as of the last quarter, I'm just trying to make sure I don't say something that's non-public. I guess it'll be public once I say it, so that's okay. Well, so as of the last quarter, we had about $9.5 million. I may or may not have said that, you know, to go to extinguish the obligation that Sierra Springs has, and we killed two birds with one stone by doing that. We get 51% of the entity. So more than half of that has already been paid. Okay, so we have a little bit to go. We're keen to get it done. We're keen to get it done because we're getting a lot of outside interest now, and we want to have our house in order, you know, in terms of Sierra Springs. What does that mean? The obligations are gone, the platform is free and clear, and we're working with third parties to post the bonding that ensures that the power comes. And I'll give you a little insight on that. The only reason we have to bond this power commitment is because we're not Google. If we were Google, hey, good customer, thank you for signing up for our power. We're not Google, so we have to bond because, you know, we don't have a credit history. They complement the balance sheet, but there's no credit history. There's no operating history. But there's a lot of value in the land. We do not believe that it will be problematic to bond, right? Plus, the gas providers really like the opportunity, you know, bringing the power to that district. So, step one, we finish off the investment in SSOF. Step two, we bond it. Step three, we monetize it. Okay? Now, Bioleum has about, it depends on how you do the math or how you calculate it, certainly 3 months of runway, but they burn about $700,000 a month. It depends, give or take. There's been some realignment and some cost improvement that's been going on there. There's realignment, cost improvement going on in the company. And so, but we feel pretty good about, you know, their ability to go out and raise money. Is it guaranteed? No. Is it guaranteed? No. If it doesn't happen, would we and the other investors have to step in and address it? Yes. So my priorities: close the mining asset sale, prepare SSOF for a big monetization, not a small monetization. Metals gets up and running, turns profitable, and Bioleum is stable. And that's in writing on those objectives. Realign, stabilize, and then go. Go ahead. Don't touch the mic.
So $4.5 million to perfect the ownership of SSOF still needs to be paid.
Yeah.
Then you've got for power, you didn't say how much that was going to cost. I think
We're looking for third parties to, do surety bonding and bonding for that.
Okay, so just the $4.5 million to perfect the ownership, and hopefully nothing else for SSOF.
We're doing the best of our ability. If there has to be some cash collateral for that bonding, then we're going to have to deal with that when it comes. We're hoping that we're not.
Okay, and if you did need to put money into Bioleum, how much would it be? Would it be just enough for a couple of months to get to the Series A at $700,000 a month, or are you talking a bigger figure?
It's an undecided question, but that would be our preference if we have to do it. There's other alternatives too, right? I like the harder questions, Tom. He always asks hard questions.
Hi, I'm Frank Yantek, and a shareholder.
Hi, Frank.
AI is really hot right now, and we have the AI division. Haven't heard much about it. Can you let us know what they're working on, the annual revenues, expenses, and kind of the outlook for that?
Yeah. Well, in one way, it's going to be a very easy answer to the question, right? So some people do not know we had invested in the development of a material science development technology, right? It was about developing new materials. It wasn't large language models. It wasn't Grok, ChatGPT, or Claude, nothing like that, right? It was all about, can we predict and better simulate the development of new materials? I'll tell you why we did it. Because we went to a couple of, and we were pioneering in these days, okay? It was 2021, 2022, 2023. And it was clear to us that if you're in a material development business and you're not using these tools to develop these materials, you're probably going to be a dinosaur in about 6 years. I still feel that way. Nobody was doing it. So we felt like somebody had to do it, okay? Then we start to see tens of billions to hundreds of billions of dollars of budgets show up at Google, and all these other companies. And initially, it was language models. It was still, the open AI mindset. But then we started to get some inquiries about material generation technology and material simulation technology. But we knew there was no way. There's no way we're in this game. And it wasn't such a bad thing. We also knew someone else was going to do it, and we could just easily use that tech when and if it comes online. Okay, so the hard answer, and I'm a little surprised that I haven't been clearer on this. I should be clear. We stopped investing in that years ago. No more investment, no more dollars, no more capital. We have some rights to the technology that was developed. But what we're doing now is we're just intelligently trying to incorporate better tools, better technologies into our laboratories. So we're not trying to replace the lab with some magic wand. We're trying to incorporate smarter thinking. And our basic philosophy with AI is probably, I don't know that everyone thinks this way, but our view is that it's like an Iron Man suit. Right? If our people can use these technologies for material science or for gap accounting, right, it makes them smarter, faster, stronger. Okay, we want to do that. We're doing that more than people probably would imagine. We're automating the plant. We have sensors and data collection, right? We want to certify everything on the blockchain. We want to show our customers that we have certifiable daily real-time data that proves that we're zero landfill, that proves that we're the cleanest recycler unequivocally, irrefutably, irrevocably, and our competition won't be able to do that. So then we can make better, stronger offers, right, using that data. Then more data we have, the more intelligence that we can simulate from it. So we're not into technology development for AI. We're just into intelligently using these tools in our company. I tell my kids, my daughter's a lawyer. I said, bro, I don't think AI is going to replace lawyers. I actually do think that. I said, I think it's going to replace lawyers who don't use AI, okay? You know, and you heard Jensen say it the other day, like if I'm hiring kids out of college and one, you know, is passionate about AI and one's not, I'm not hiring the one, I'm hiring the AI passionate one. So that's where the world's going. It's going to be remarkably disruptive. You know, is there a silver lining in the $15 million that we spent? Painful, hurtful, but I feel like we have a lot of knowledge in the space, and we're not certainly going to repeat the mistakes and make foolish investments.
So there's no revenue from that? And what are the expenses of that? And will there be, so there's no...
We secured the tech that was developed. We have the rights to it. We were thinking about deploying it into our, integrating it into our R&D facility, and initially in Madison, okay, for fuels. But we got bigger fish to fry, so we're just intelligently incorporating these tools. I'm just going to say tools for the moment, but we do see future factories being fully autonomous, 100%. We do see them being run agentically. I don't know if people even appreciate what all that means. We see it clearly. We see it clearly. We've got people in this room that are working on those platforms for us as we speak, as part of our normal operating expense. Like, in other words, we're not saying we need to spend this much more money for that. We're saying stop doing those dumb things and start doing those smart things. So without increasing our cost, but increasing our speed, increasing our effectiveness. Right? Ultimately, technology, material science technology is our forte. Who can eliminate, depolymerize, and destroy these contaminants cleanly, efficiently, safely? And there's a lot of tech there. I mean, it's literally the behavior of the electrons of certain materials that makes our ovens the most efficient. It's chemistry. Most of the recyclers are mechanical. They're mechanical engineers. They're not chemists. With lignin, it's a whole nother thing. Lignin is very unstable. Why hasn't anybody converted lignin to oil? It's very hard. So we're focusing on those things. Is that helpful? Yep. Thank you.
Corrado, we
Yes.
do have a question back here from this gentleman. Please state
Mr.
your name.
Conrad.
Hey, Brian Conrad, shareholder. My question is about the natural gas rights that you have going to the site.
Yeah.
If Comstock's putting up the security or making the guarantees, do we own that right, or does the Silver Springs Opportunity Fund own that?
Today we own it. Tomorrow we would like Silver Springs to take on the obligation. And they want to, right? Because the power in the land is what creates the value. The power in the land is what creates the value, right? So ideally, it's that entity that has the power of the land and the water, and the fiber, which are the critical prerequisites for enabling it. So that's our goal. That's our goal. Mr. Goldstein.
All right, please state your name.
Rich Goldstein, shareholder and advisor to other shareholders. Corrado, thank you. First of all, congrats on a lot of the progress, so thank you.
Thank you.
For that. I think some of the other questions addressing the Sierra Silver Springs Opportunity Zone and our interests, just for clarity, if you can just talk about today, what we own and what we have.
Yes.
And what you propose or think we may achieve post a benefit of developing these opportunities. Just clarify.
Absolutely. So let me say Sierra Springs Opportunity Fund, Inc. owns 2,500 acres of land in Silver Springs. It owns and operates the Silver Springs Regional Airport. It owns 600 Lake Avenue with a 140,000 square foot manufacturing facility and a 7,500 square foot demonstration facility. It owns thousands, 1,800, 1,900 acre feet of water rights in Silver Springs. Comstock Inc., or its subsidiaries, own 258 acres adjacent and contiguous with most of those acres and about 300 acre feet of water rights. That assemblage is powerful. Comstock stepped in to extinguish part of the obligation that was taken on to acquire all those lands by Comstock, certainly as an investor, and the Sierra Springs investors together. So once we make the final payment that Tom was referring to, we own 51% of Sierra Springs Opportunity Fund, Inc., ish. Could be 49, could be 51, could be 50. It's a big number, and I wouldn't even get hung up on the 49.9 versus 50.1 thing, right? Because everyone's strongly aligned on the goal of monetizing this. Mary Beth? Yes. Then Comstock saw the opportunity to commit to this natural gas. And we went at it first from a Sierra Springs perspective, right? But it ultimately was more effective for Comstock to commit. It was the only real option, frankly, okay? But the big guys were there. The big guys, the guys in Fernley, the guys in Tri-Center, committing to 777,000 decatherms a day of natural gas, which is now over 1.1 million decatherms a day of natural gas for 2028. And we took a little piece of that pie, 50,000 decatherms. Then we took another piece of the pie, another 150,000 for 2030. Okay? So that is extremely attractive to people if you have the land and the power. Do we have the power? No. We have a commitment for a natural gas pipeline, but that enables the power. Now people can come in and buy gas through the line right to the properties. Still a lot of work to do there, but those are the critical prerequisites. Okay? So it's a lot of hard work. Yeah, it's a lot of hard work. 6 years, and we feel like we see a light at the end of the tunnel. That's, I guess, what I would leave. Richard, did I answer it properly?
Corrado, we have a question from Mr. Jokover.
Uh-oh.
Mr. DeGasperis, could I call you Corrado?
Yes, sir.
First of all, I want to commend you and Stephen and Leo on your SEC filings on buying shares and eating your own cooking. That's great.
Thank you.
I am a shareholder in Comstock Inc. I am a shareholder in SSOF, going way back. I wonder if you had anything to do, the serendipity feeling of this meeting with Reno coming out and putting a moratorium on data centers has probably quadrupled the value out there in Silver Springs. And I attended last week the groundbreaking where our governor kicked off Track's second center. They have one at the north end on the Peru Shelf, one at the south end that is only 8 miles from Highway 50. They have $10 billion in cash, and they are going to spend $40 to $50 billion over the next 30 to 50 years just at those two facilities. So you have now hit, in my opinion, and I think you know I know a little bit about real estate, just the perfect timing and location and right assets at the right time. Next, I'm thinking you might be aware that Elon Musk has announced that he is putting in the largest solar manufacturing solar panel site in Texas, in North America. And your map that showed all of those circles about Texas, one of the things that Musk's operations are known for is speed. And in that speed, initially, there's a tremendous amount of waste created.
Breakage.
So I'm guessing, hopefully, that your team is looking maybe at the possibilities of getting some of the materials that come out of that facility when it starts up.
Yeah. That's 2 questions.
I think.
And he's right under the 3-minute time rule, so that's good.
All right, well, first I just, I want to say very humbly, there is a very, Tom, you're going to appreciate this, there's a very, very fine line between being a speculative idiot and a visionary, okay? And I straddle that line. Everyone and their mother, except Ann, except Mary Beth, and except a handful of others, Leo thing, what the hell's going on in Silver Springs? Like, what are you guys talking about? And if you just looked at the demographics of Reno to Tri-Center to Northern Nevada Center, it just seemed like it was inevitable, okay? We actually thought it would have been sooner, frankly. And so it's just a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. And honestly, with hindsight, probably would have done it differently. I think the one thing that we've suffered is, we had too many things going on at the same time. It wasn't the plan that Comstock would be majority owner. It wasn't. It was that it would be independent. But then COVID hit, and then NV Energy ran out of power, and then, things happen. Shit happens. But we have perseverance. So that's the one thing I guess I would acknowledge. We have real perseverance. The Reno moratorium is actually one tiny example of a pretty dramatic wave that's going across the country of communities rejecting these projects. And in some cases you could understand it, because the massive scale of what they're doing and the resource and energy consumption is scary for sure. But one of the things that we do have in Lyon County, in Story County, is the trust of the county commissioners, and it was earned, right? Earned, right? Not given, earned, and that trust is not blanket. It's because we're trustworthy, and because any of the projects that we bring are going to be good for those communities. So I actually think you're right. The demand is incalculable, and the ability to deploy that demand is getting curtailed, right? Maybe artificially, maybe not artificially, by this resistance, making Story and Lyon County like huge beneficiaries. We were just approached by the Story County Commission, saying, do you want to join the Pro Data Center Alliance? Yes, we do. and then I didn't get to go to that. My father was ill. I missed the ribbon cutting for the tract to NVIDIA, and the governor was there. You were there, I guess, right? The governor was there. And the governor not only was so robustly supporting this development, the next day at the Development Authority, all he could talk about was data centers. So the state of Nevada is open for business. Northern Nevada is open for business. Story County is open for business. Lyon County is open for business. Reno, I don't know, right? I don't know what's going on. But in fairness to the metropolitan areas, they're congested. They probably need to worry about some of this a little more. So I don't know if I answered. Did I answer both? Did I? Good enough. Thank you. Any more?
Anyone who hasn't asked a question yet?
Alan Mace, right there.
All right. I'll hold the microphone. I was a point guard, but I'm not going to give up the ball. I'm going right to the hoop.
Thank you for your health awareness.
Well, this is job security.
Alan Mace, investor. Being that the company has what I guess is defined as the first mover advantage with the process for the recycling or rehabbing of the solar panels, part of your strategy, as you've presented it, is to license or joint venture the process going forward. How, if possible, do you plan to protect the first mover advantage, if at all possible?
Fantastic question. Fantastic question. I don't know if I said that we were going to license it, but let me. This is a great question, touching on something I don't think I addressed well. So first and foremost, in terms of first mover, I would agree we're a first mover to scale. Okay, so you've got 2 or 3 folks out there operating their systems, we believe similar size to our demo facility, okay? They claim they can do things that we're pretty certain they can't do what we can do, but we're gonna be the first to scale. If we get this thing up and running in this next month, we're gonna be the first to scale. And that's still to be proven, and we need to execute, so all the appropriate caveats. The know-how, Alan, is remarkable. It's remarkable in its effectiveness. In some ways, it's remarkable in its simplicity, the chemistries. It's not simple. Fortunato will probably be offended that I said that because it's his life's work, okay? But we have purposely not patented that technology for a couple of reasons. Most of it is process tech, process know-how, process tech, chemistry, that would be weak if we patented it, we believe. But secondly, why would we want to give anybody a roadmap to what we know how to do and they don't? So that's the first point, which is exactly why you asked the question the way you asked it. If we're going to joint venture with somebody, if we're going to license to somebody, which we have not said we're going to license in the United States, we're own and operate. We want to get 7 facilities up and running across the country in key locations. We want to have at least 1, hopefully 2 metal recovery systems so that we're an industrial material company. And I think we're going to become a global industrial material company. I don't think you should think of us as just a solar panel recycler. Comstock Metals is a global industrial materials company. That's frankly my background, starting in industrial graphite. That's Fortunato's background. I spent 30 years doing it. He spent 40 years doing it. Global industrial materials company, critical materials, precious metals, critical metals, etc. We're going to take full advantage of our mining and metallurgical backgrounds for that too. Now, we have been approached by some really big customers. Could we co-locate a facility? Could we joint venture a facility? There are powerful market reasons to do that. So we're very interested in that. In those cases, we operate, we control. They're more of a financial/strategic partner, okay? Internationally, it's still a question. How would we best do it? And frankly, we haven't pursued it for 2 reasons aggressively. We've talked to the Australians, we've talked to the Indians, we've talked to the Europeans, okay? And they're interested. We haven't done it for 2 reasons. One, we have a huge priority. We got to walk before we could run. As much as we're confident this thing's going to work, it doesn't work until it works. We're going to see it work very soon. And then secondly, how do you control the know-how? How do you control the know-how? And we're biased, we don't know, to having joint ventures that we control. Right, so if you have a local partner, you have a local partner for local reasons, strategic local reasons, but we want to control the know-how to the best of our ability. One thing I'll say though, 7 facilities up and running in the United States, even before we're extracting the metals, could generate a lot of cash flow. So we can't screw that up. We have to execute on that first before we take it further.
Corrado, we are approaching the top of the hour.
Yeah.
And did you want to give us some final thoughts, and we could turn the online viewing audience loose for the day, and we could do some follow-up here if we need to?
What does top of the hour mean? What time is it?
About 10 minutes away from 11.
Okay, yeah, fantastic. So we're okay. So yeah, here's my final thoughts, right? I'm super excited about you meeting the metals team this afternoon. I want to just reiterate, say hello to Fortunato, say hello to some of the members of the team. Kyle Geddes is our plant manager. He coaches the basketball team for the high school in Silver Springs. Meet the people, ask them good questions, and enjoy the afternoon. When we go through the industrial park, I am going to hand wave all the stuff that I just referred to. You're going to see it with your own hands. Why is that important? Because it directly correlates to the value of the Sierra Springs Opportunity Fund, platform. And then we got an exciting summer ahead of us. Getting the mining assets completed. To Richard's clarifying question, a lot more clarity coming with Sierra Springs, as we really, really advance the thing as a combined team, and then we're, the objectives for metals. If you have one thought in your mind that you want to look forward to is, when does Fortunato say, hey, I'm extracting silver? So even before, we get to the 1 ton a day pilot facility, we should have some proof of chemistry, some proof of process for extracting silver. That'll be the first metal that we validate we can pull out. So, so lots happening from this point forward. The board's locked and loaded. We've done so much work as a board in the last 2 months. I think maybe it's important to emphasize that in closing. We're going to become a multi-billion-dollar global company. We need to professionalize our management. We need to expand our board, and we need to allocate the work so it's not a one-man show. And the only thing that matters is execution. Execute and deliver on the objectives. We're not perfect. Sometimes we're a little late. We're going to do a better job at setting expectations and delivering on those expectations.
All right, thank you very much, Corrado. Also, go ahead, applause is very acceptable.